It says that I am live, but I'm not seeing YouTube. Okay, I'm just not seeing. Okay, it's on YouTube side. I'll have to edit that out later. That's very odd. For whatever reason. Oh, now I can see myself on YouTube. Would you look at that? I can tell my audio and stuff is working though. Weird. Okay, a couple other little tests before I start this off. Ooh. Well, that's not quite. Set that angle so you can see it a bit more. Switch this back over to me. Cool. So, Dan here, the paintballpost.com. Today, I've got our first unboxing and technically first impressions. I say technically because I don't know if it's is it first impressions when you've owned an axe for essentially years? Technically my wife has, but I have helped maintain it and I fixed it when we first got it. But today I won myself an Empire Axe 2.0 and I'm really excited about it. If you've visited this channel or visited the web page, you will have seen that not only do I have a bit of a soft spot for the original axe, but the Axe 2.0 is on my list of recommendations for best markers under $300. Like I think it made it in there the slightly above $300 category. That's USD. Here in Canada, these things are still a good deal. But I won one of these. I believe they were from paintballgear.ca. So if you're in Canada, check them out. But I won it at Bragg Creek Paintball for their gun owner day that they do at the end of every month. So shout out to both paintballgear.ca and Bragg Creek Paintball. I love them both. Highly recommend supporting them, as I do. But I want to do a bit of an unboxing of this because, like I said, I have a lot of experience with the original axe as well as, so the Axe 2.0 I'm very, very familiar with, but this is my first time owning one myself. And yeah, I plan on keeping this, even though I technically have a lot of other markers that aren't going anywhere either. This one is going to be mine. And yeah, just because I've got technically superior markers in a lot of ways. Like I've got my XPS and I've got a few fun toys on the wall there that some may consider to be better than this thing. I love bringing people to the field, and when I bring them to the field, I want something that's no nonsense and is going to work. And that is where the axe comes in. So let us switch over to the unboxing camera here. I will say I'm a fan of this packaging, though the axe does not come with a gear bag or anything like that, or marker case, I should say. It does come with a little, is this just a very tiny manual? Now, I'm hoping there's a bigger manual in there. I know there's a bigger one online. LED color for this or that, firing the axe, regulator adjustment. It's like this is a quick start guide, I'm assuming. I don't mind that as long as there's either a bigger manual in here or definitely something on the website. The only thing I wish this had. Gonna give it slightly docked points. It doesn't look like this quick start guide has a guide on adjusting the board. That is the only downside, in my opinion, to the Axe and the Axe 2.0 is that the stock board, although very, very serviceable and has all the modes you'll ever need, doesn't have, you know, a OLED screen. You have to buy that separate or buy the Redline version. And having in that little quick start guide, like, give me a nice laminated, here's how to adjust, in particular, dwell. The only adjustment we've ever had to do on the field for the board on my wife's Axe was the dwell on a cold day. So having, here's the LED for dwell and how many clicks for that, blah, 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 somewhere on there would actually be really nice. And that there is my new Axe 2.0. So this is the gray and black color. It's got some forbidden pop rocks there. And there we have it. I'm going to take the box out of the way and just put it right here on the tech mat. Yeah, that is a lovely, lovely marker. It actually looks better in person. Similar to the original Axe. Let's see if I can get a better shot for the Laudia there. Similar to the original Axe, we've got a dust finish. Doesn't do it justice. Sorry for my messy desk here. I wasn't planning on doing an unboxing today. The finish here, and no, it is not scratched. That's just looks that way on the camera there. It's kind of got this bead blasted anode going. This is the gray and black. Here it is in this image. Let me switch over to me. There it is. There. Does it come with a 9-volt in it? Oh, it does. Oh, that starts up nice and quick. Okay, now I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison between the original and this. My originals are both in the car because we were using them today. I do have to adjust that trigger. I don't know if you can hear that. That activation point is there. Oof, that is not set up out of the factory the best, but that is actually still one of my favorite triggers in paintball, especially stock triggers, right? I think Bob Long might have had some better stock triggers on some of their markers, but the Axe trigger, and they did some major cost savings by shoving the magnet into the frame like this rather than trying to hide everything, which some people like and some people don't. Grips feel very good. Rubber grip on the front. I prefer... Do I prefer the bare metal? I think if I'm not wearing gloves, I think I like this rubber grip. I'll have to see it with the tank. But yeah, same trigger as the original Axe, and this one needs some adjustment, but overall happy with that. As you can see, we have eye covers now. Now, something that the original Axe didn't have was eye covers. It just went straight across, which is fine. It looked good, but made it a bit of a pain to clean the eyes. So this is going to be a better setup for that. These new grips, I wonder if those fit the original. I'll have to test that theory. But I really like the feel of these grips, actually. Like the trigger frame here feels really, really nice. Yeah, now, they did go with a composite feed neck. I've never heard of one of these breaking. I'm sure it can happen. But it is something to be aware of, that the main difference here, the original was screwed directly in. This does a more common now option of there's a lip that this clamps onto, right? If you've used most Planet Eclipse feed necks, I believe, do this, but I've seen it on a lot of other guns too. There's my serial number. Cool. But this I do like. Where's my button? That just turns on right away. Hold it to turn off. Cool. And then this section here, I believe, I'll have to double check the manual. But I'm fairly certain to switch over to the red line on these. You don't have to replace as much. Like, I think the red line board in the Axe 1.0, or whatever you want to call it, you had to replace the entire front grip. I think there's like a bezel that goes here, because there's like a rubber here that I think and there's a couple little screws here. So I'm thinking there's like a thing that pops off here. I'll double check in the manual, but I think this part pops off. And yeah, could be worthwhile doing a video on that down the road. Velocity adjuster is different. Will it? Yeah. That is way smaller than it used to be. And the fact that there is no there's no gauge on here. Now, I knew that going in. It's also milled down a bit. The originals didn't, I don't believe, had these slits across the side, but they kept the, oh, that's a little different too. Interesting. Yeah, this is a little bit of a different design for the on-off, but the same functionality. Now, the regulator on these isn't user serviceable, unfortunately, still, but I've never had issues with mine. Like I said, my wife has had an Axe for nearly a decade now. I've owned an Axe for about a year personally as well that I use as a loaner. We used it today. Shoots great. Barely needs any maintenance. The only thing I've ever done on my wife's Axe is replace a single O-ring. Or not even a single O-ring. I don't think we've actually replaced any O-rings on it. Oh, interesting. But the only thing I think we've replaced was the plastic poppet that's in there. That went on hers the day I went to buy it. A friend of or not a friend, acquaintance of mine was selling an Axe. I went to check it out. As soon as we aired it up, air was gushing down the barrel. I had a suspicion it was that, but he wanted it gone, so I bought it for dirt cheap and went home and fixed it. Yeah, little caked on the lube front. I don't know why there's that much on there, but man, it's interesting to see an Axe bolt that doesn't have, thousands upon thousands of cycles on it. It will zoom in eventually. Yeah. And yeah, if you're unfamiliar with the Axe in general, the bolt on here this is a wonderful system. This bolt system, similar to, and I'm going to get into this when I do like my full review of this. I want to shoot a case of paint minimum through it, even though I know a lot about this marker, but I just, want to get more hands-on experience before doing a dedicated review. But the big thing when it comes to the bolt system on this is that two-stage bolt system that you see on things like the Gamma Core and stuff like that, even though this is a very different methodology of firing. Like, this is a pressure-controlled poppet versus the Gamma Core is a Fasaur. Because it's not a Fasaur, because that's, but it's an air spring, but it's a spool, right? This is a poppet. Although this shoots very, very smoothly if you set it up to do so. Like I said, I have an Axe and my wife has an Axe. We have them running at about 180 PSI, and it shoots soft enough that we keep thinking that they are shooting low, and then they aren't. So, but yeah, one thing I did notice in terms of changes is this is a direct out. you just press it and it just springs out because of the spring tension on there. Some people don't like the fact it's a spring on the bolt. It doesn't make a difference. This isn't like I'm in the middle of reviewing a original ETHA. That does have a spring in the system, and you feel it when it shoots. You hear the spring ping. You don't really on an axe. I've some people have said like I think it was Lurker that was talking about it. If anyone remembers Lurker Paintball, they very good designer. I think they're working behind the scenes in the industry more than running their own thing now. But they were talking about how somebody wanted a spring-free system for the axe, and they were like, "Why would I do that? I mean, I can. You can probably run it without the spring if you do it like your pressure is just right, but it would highly, highly reduce the reliability. So why would we do that? Now, something I mentioned, but I kind of scooted over, is pressing that, and this just pops out the back. Now, part of that's because of that spring tension, but it's also, it doesn't have the zigzag track that it used to have. However, it should still, let me check here. Yep. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It might. So, now, that is not, it looks scratched up in the photo. That is not. That's just the light, or the way the light is reflecting, plus a bit of lube on it. This is brand spanking new. You saw me take the plastic, well, I took the plastic off, semi-off camera. But in here, there is a little piston, because in the original axe, like beta testing, this shot out the back of it from both the air and the spring, and they almost pulled the plug on selling axes. So lead designer Simon Stevens, I believe. Unless I'm getting my names mixed up. It's been a long day. I was out paintballing today and just woke up from a nap. But yeah, he went and was like, okay, I can fix this. And he did it on his own time. Developed the little piston. So this shouldn't be able to pop out while this is aired up. So yeah, first impressions, I'm pretty happy with this thing. It feels good. It's a little smaller, I can tell. I was told that, and I've got a bit of experience with these. Like it's not as small as the Mini, but if you want a longer gun, go for the OG axe. And yeah, no marker bag or marker case or anything like that. But when you take this out, you've got a few goodies here. Now, thankfully, we've got a branded barrel bag, Empire. Awesome. Good to see. We've got a great parts kit. Now, not only does it have that pop-it bit that is the one thing on here that tends to wear out and it becomes a bit of a problem, we've got an extra set of detents in here, as well as some springs for different things throughout it and the O-rings. Now, I'm going to have to do some testing. The big thing with the detents, this is a point of contention that I may have with this gun. The original has sprung detents. And every now and then, sprung detents, if they were like from the factory, if they were set up incorrectly, they could have some problems and stuff. So the rubber nubbin detents that this uses, I don't know if you'll even be able to see them in there. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, it's just really dark in there. But you can kind of see just in front of the eyes. I wonder if I can... hide my face. Yeah, the little red nubbins in there. So those are your detents. Now, here's the thing about those, and I actually don't mind this, especially. The one thing I might do with this this particular axe, I may finally pick myself up a set of the I want to say it's Exalt that did them. But I don't know if you can see in there. There's very little rollback going on there. I don't have my axes handy to show otherwise, but the original axe didn't have too bad of rollback, and it was incredibly easy on paint. But with these smaller paint that we're running into, rollback becomes a bigger and bigger problem. And not only does this have a soft tip bolt, which is sweet, always has, always will, but we have those rubber detents that tend to I don't know if you can see that, but that's it. That's it for movement back there. And if I was I don't want to do a full flat face bolt, but the Exalt does sort of the X that you see in like the more modern or some of the modern Planet Eclipse replacement bolt tips. Do I have one here? I just replaced a bunch of these. I used them all. Well, I must have used them all because I've got my Planet Eclipse Ether parts here. Yeah, I must have used them, and I don't have my XTS parts kit handy. But yeah, my XTS has it as well. But there used to be this big debate around, do you get a flat face bolt, right? So here's my lens cap. Let me switch over to me. Here's my lens cap, right? So you got a flat face bolt, and then you've got your paintball. Or let's say, do I have anything that's the same darn size? Oh, I'll use lens caps. Okay. Flat face bolt. So there, right? So you got to push your paintball, and now the paintball that's above has a chance of getting into this spot and getting clipped. Open face bolt. That same paintball now gets cupped inside as it's going, and there's a lot less of a lip here. So there was a bit of a debate about that. Now, the best of both worlds that I've seen is what Planet Eclipse moved to for bolt tips. For the Etha and some of their other markers. Now, my internet sucks while I'm streaming, so we'll see how this goes. Can I open a website? Not yet. Okay, we're not going to deal with that today. I will talk about it more in the review, but that tiny bit of rollback, like, there's these ones where they have this X almost. Usually it's not like a true X. Usually it's like a peace sign almost, like the 3 stems. And it'll be soft so that as the bolt moves forward, the ball can get cushioned in a little bit. Like it's not truly a hard flat face like some of like the bolts of old. But it also lines it perfectly up the detents. And I will say on this Axe 2.0, I think that lines it up really well with the detents. Like there's no side to side play when I put a ball in there. That is good to see. Yeah, so that's the part kit and that. The only other thing that was in that box is the barrel. Now this is slightly controversial. We're gonna ignore that because the controversy around this is really dumb. So this barrel is a 14-inch 2-piece. And it looks great. Now, it is a driver barrel. So if anybody out there has ever owned a... why can't I remember the name of it? Vanquish 2.0, I believe, had these. The Vanquish 1.0 had Freak inserts. But this has a driver barrel. Now, they're doing 2 things here that I really like. One is, it's just your standard 688 14-inch barrel in delightfully matching colors. This is going to go really, really well with this. I don't want to put it all together on camera on a live stream because YouTube might boot me out. I don't care about monetization, but as soon as you put a barrel on a paintball gun, some of their auto algorithm stuff starts tripping. But they own the rights to the Freak, but they're not really using it anymore. I don't know if it got bought back or if they lost it at some point, but this is very much like this heavily reminds me of a Freak tip with the spiral porting, big ports. And yeah, like the fact that you can't get backs really for these anymore, at least I'm fairly certain, like the backs for these are incredibly rare, annoys some people. I don't care. Because this isn't a closed bolt marker and a 688 is fine, right? I got that paintball from before. Now, this is the signs of my paint at my local field is this ball can get stuck in this 688 barrel. Your mileage may vary. You may want something like a 684, 685 if you want to get all of your efficiency numbers up and blah, blah, blah. But I don't care because these are already efficient enough. Now, the other thing, though, I like about this is because of the way they have this, where this screws into here, this barrel back is nice and long, right? That's what really matters about a back. We've got 7 and just over 7.5 inches. We're coming up on 8. Am I seeing that wrong? No, it looks closer to 8 in the camera than it does in real life. There we go. Now you can actually see it. But yeah, it looks like just a bit past 7.5. And 8 is kind of the sweet spot. Anything around 7 to 8. That was the testing done years back. So you get that nice 8-inch control bore, but because the front has this extended lip here and screws into the back, where it used to be kind of vice versa, where your back would screw in your front. And yeah, this is wonderful. These barrels I've used similar. They all shoot the same in terms of distance, accuracy, blah blah blah. But having that longer control bore can be really nice. And then I do have somewhere in this mess beside me. This here was a stock axe barrel from years ago. You will see a whole lot less porting. Linear porting doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that there's less, and it's also a line up the backs here. Full like 2 inches shorter, right? The original barrel did not do the axe justice. It was milled well and worked just fine, but it was loud versus these guys, these driver barrels. I've shot them before. They're going to keep this thing quiet. This is going to be good. So, good on them. I'm happy with this. Now, the only other thing I want to check. I have hope. I have hope. I don't know if you can see that there. A few keen eyes may catch what I'm excited about there. One of the big things that I loved about my Vanquish 2.0, it only needed 1 Allen key. Now, this appears to need 2 total. I'm going to go through and see where that second one becomes a necessity. But that came really loose from the factory, but that's okay. But yeah, only needing 2? Oh, man. Oh, man, is that ever going to be nice. Also came with a bunch of extra screws. That is really lovely to see. I'm actually surprised at that. Looks like a feed neck screw, grip frame screw. Looks like the screws for the grips. Oh, 2 feet, no, what are these? I'm gonna have to go through that parts kit and figure out what some of those are for. Because, yeah, there's a lot of screws there, but it looks like some of them are for here. But then they've got these other ones that I wonder if those are for velocity adjusting and stuff. I'm pretty sure you can get a sprocket to put on the end of this to make it like hand tightenable. I don't care. I'm going to be using this as a loaner, and I don't want them screwing with it anyway and over tightening it, so I'm going to leave it. But that is something to keep an eye on, or that I'm not keep an eye on. Something that I'm happy to see is that this has like a pretty nice feed neck. The originals, these always ended up at like weird angles and stuff just because of the way they threaded in and quality control. Like you weren't going to get them threaded in the right angle all the time. It just doesn't happen that way. It's the same thing with barrels, right? They used to put, like, you'll notice this barrel has like no branding anywhere on it. It doesn't have any jewels and things like that on the side. They've moved away from that because it always looked goofy because it always ended up in the wrong spot. So they've kind of done away with that. So yeah, out of the box, I'm pretty happy with this thing. I do have to adjust this trigger because it clicks there and then travels, and that feels like it's putting some pressure on the micro switch that I don't want to be there. Yeah, and this looks, like I said, this looks a little more streamlined. This looks like almost the exact one off of my my Vanquish when I used to have it, where like it got, you know, milled down a little bit. Changes the weight distribution a bit. I wish they kept this a little longer, but at the same time, this isn't as short as I think some people say it is. Just for comparison's sake. Oh, what do we want to compare it to? We've got a Proto M8 and foregrip and back of grip line up. Right, so because of the hourglass nature of this, it's a little bit tricky to line this up, but it lines up perfectly about there on the back of the grip. And you can see on the front, so yeah, like this isn't a short marker, but it's not going to be as long as some of these modern ones, right? You can see there, that's where the backs are lining up, but this indents a bit more up here because this hourglass is in this section here. If I line it up with where the thumb would be, and have this stick out a little more on the back, and you can see that, and I don't want to do this too much because I don't want to scratch either of these, right? So that's where it kind of lines up on the back. So yeah, let's get this back. All right, so that is my unboxing and first impressions so far. And like I said, first impression is a little bit wonky when it comes to something like this because I have dealt with a lot of axes over the years, and I knew exactly what I was getting when I opened up a 2.0. I've dealt with these barrels. I think I've shot a 2.0. I can't remember. But the differences are pretty minimal, right? We have the rubber foregrip that's been brought in just a tad. We've got a bit of extra milling down here, which is nice to see, and this is refined a little bit down here. A composite feed neck, which some people didn't like, but I don't mind. Eye covers, which does de-streamline this a little bit. I do kind of wish they would have accented those eye covers. So instead of just having that screw on there, because this is the gray, I would have liked that gray stripe. Let's make a gray eye cover there. I think that would have looked cool. But when you're seeing the marker not under my video light here, That eye cover kind of vanishes into the marker, so I'm not too worried about it. Same great trigger, just needs, in this case, some adjustment. They've simplified this mechanism a bit here, which is also slimmed down the back cap. Changed the back cap sizing, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like it used to need a huge velocity there. Oh, and the velocity is marked now. That's actually kind of nice, especially for beginners, because they don't want you messing with the tank or with the regulatory pressure. I'm going to. I'm going to drop mine a little bit because I prefer these with a slightly lower stock pressure. There's ways to balance things and to optimize pressures and stuff. I don't bother with that. I think these shoot fine either way. But yeah, so we're going to adjust this trigger and adjust that a little bit. But if you're new to this stuff, leave this at factory settings and just adjust out the pack. Some people will disagree with that. That's how they want you doing it because it is the most reliable way to do it. It's kind of hard to screw it up is the reason they do it that way. Yeah, composite feed neck, like I said, take it or leave it. But it looks better than the original, that's for sure. In terms of the feed neck, rubber grips are nice. I actually really like this grip back here. But it is the exact same heart. As far as I know, it's almost the same board. I'll have to experiment with the board a little bit when I go to get my 10.5 setting going on here. And yeah, I like some of these accents and stuff they did in the grips to match the gun. That's kind of nice to see too. It's just overall a nice little package, right? If I was brand new to this sport, frequently I recommend this exact gun to people who are brand new to the sport. There's nothing wrong with buying new, right? There's something to be said about buying used and saving money. But if you want a warranty, if you want to be able to go to a store, right? Like I said, paintballgear.ca, their owner was at Bragg Creek today and was helping get my nephew's gun up and running today, right? Aftermarket support is wonderful to have. So buying new, especially if you're brand new, can be really nice. And these sell for a very good price brand new and shoot honestly as well, if not better, than a lot of the other high-end markers out there. It just doesn't have some of the bells and whistles. But you still have your bolt out the back with easy release. You still have, a clamping feed neck, even if it doesn't have the thumb wheel. I'm sure there's one you can add to it. Got an on-off ASA, has all the modes you need, and feels pretty good in the hands. I know some people aren't a big fan of the axe ergonomics because of the size of this foregrip. It is a little bit of a box, right? So if you want something you can wrap your hand around, the axe probably isn't for you. But if you're like something they call it teacupping, where you're just grabbing like the tail of it, or if you like wrapping your thumb around the barrel, you're gonna find this is plenty comfortable. They shoot good. Full review is coming when I actually put paint through this particular one, but I have countless shots through axes over the years, so I think I can speak pretty authoritatively, even if this is my first experience with my own Axe 2.0. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks great. Feels good in the hands. I know it's going to shoot good because it's an axe, and that's just what they do. So if you're looking into one of these, I still do highly recommend them, even though, like I said, this is my first personally owning one. I've recommended these to a lot of people because they're easy to maintain, because they don't have a... Right, like that proto I was holding earlier, that has a low pressure regulator that you have to mess with and all this stuff. The only thing I don't like about these is that you can't mess with this too much, but I don't really recommend getting in here and screwing around with these if you don't know what you're doing, and you probably don't need to do that. The regulator I have on my wife's axe needs a drop of oil or two a couple times a year, and it just keeps working. We've never really had to do anything with it. So, and we've had it for about a decade. So I don't mind that these aren't user serviceable as long as they technically are. You can get in there. Got to do a specialty tool. But in terms of maintenance on these, like legitimately, you pop this out. There's these O-rings on the outside. There's those O-rings in there. That is it. That is the extent of your maintenance on the axe, be it the original or this one. This one's actually easier to maintain because they went for those eye covers. And it's just less of a pain in the butt. That's a little weird. There's a little bit of play on this back, but that probably goes away when you have it aired up because that piston will hold that all in place. But my air tanks are all in the car right now. Don't tell my neighbors. I don't want anything stolen. All right, I'm going to get going. I've had ice cream waiting. Axe 2.0. Look forward to the full review. It's going to be here and there on the paintballpost.com as well as here on our YouTube channel. But yeah, these are awesome, right? I love my fun old guns and stuff. They're a blast to shoot. But if you want something that's just solid, you pull it out of the box and the thing is just going to run forever. It's kind of this and like the Planet Eclipse stuff. Those are often your best bets. I'm happy to see Mac Devs coming back to give them a bit of a run for their money. But in terms of just out of the box, long proven reliability, yeah, especially for beginners, it's like the Axe and then the Etha and EMEC are kind of like, and I mean Etha 2 and 3. Ether 1 has its problems, though. Review on that coming soon too, because I picked up some of those recently. But yeah, the Axe, it's still solid. It shoots it shoots wonderful. Like I was using my XTS, but I was letting a first-time paintballer use Axe 1.0 earlier today. No issues, no broken paint, no tech support, anything. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to having another one of these to I'm going to use it myself for said review, but this is going to go into the loaner rotation because I just know it's going to work. And that's the last thing I want is to invite somebody to the field and their gun's breaking down all the time and I've got to be sitting there fixing it because I don't want that. So that's the end of my rant. Should have been done about 15 minutes ago, but this is the way I do it. So, you all have a good evening, morning, or afternoon.